Hello and thanks for staying with us. Customs continue to educate members of the force on COVID-19 prevention in the seaports all over the country. Also on customs reports, customs impound goods worth millions of naira from smugglers operating at the nation's borderline. Plus, more report. I am Igiseme Etinye. Stay tuned. The Assistant Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service in charge of Zone A has continued to educate members of the service operating in the zone on the danger of COVID-19 in the country. The ACG urged members of each team on the Western Zone to continue to observe the social distances when they are at work. She urged them to put on their masks also. The custom boss urged stakeholders to continue to obey the rules governing the operation of the customs throughout the nation's seaports.
Incidentally, just before the total shutdown of the whole system, especially Lagos, Ogun State, and the FCT, I went round with a team of officers from here to sensitize the commands, the area commands. We talked about compliance to federal government and state government directives on how to combat this COVID-19 and stay safe. And that is why starting from here, the zonal headquarters, you will see that we have put 10 points. We erected 10 points where you wash your hands with running water and antibacterial soaps. We have erected that in every possible corner here, so that from the gates, you must wash your hands. And your temperature must be checked with an infrared thermometer, starting from the gates. Before, I'm sure you experienced that when you were coming. And then whenever you want to enter any office again, you wash your hands. We want people to wash your hands, and wash your hands. And then we also talked about social distancing. And that is why we are still we thank God we are safe in this Zone A for now, because officers are maintaining the directives. They are making sure that they maintain the directives. There is no area command you go to without seeing all these things I've mentioned. You will see points where people wash their hands, your temperature will be checked, and you must wear your face mask. And of course, you must maintain a certain social distancing like we are maintaining now. You know, the officers are giving back to the system what they were given. Remember I said before that the CGC had mapped out a lot of training activities for the officers. And he had insisted that every officer must be trained and retrained. And I think that is what gave the officers, in conjunction with the welfare package that the CG had given them, the improved welfare packages, that is what had gingered the officers to perform very, very exceptionally. And I tell you, the officers have been very good. These trainings have now positioned them to be able to profile, even without seeing what the goods are. They could profile the system, and they could target using certain pointers, like the country of origin, the importer. With this alone, they will be able to tell you a lot about an import, whether the person had complied or not. So it's like there's no hiding place for smugglers. The officers are really up and doing. They are all on their toes right now, and I am proud of them. The controllers are well seasoned, and that's why they are there. and they have proved their worth. Look at, in this quarter, many of them had surpassed their targets. In this quarter, many of them have surpassed their targets. It's just a few of them that had not done so well, but that is as a result of many issues. Take, for instance, it's not easy for transfers now because, one, the roads are very bad, and it's not also, it's difficult for the agents, it's difficult for the freight forwarders to come forward like they used to come before, to even request that their goods be transferred to so place, which is outside the port. So mostly all the activities are centered in the ports right now, not in the terminals, bonded terminals outside the ports. And that is why some areas, like, some areas have not been able to make their target. But collectively, I'm really impressed that they were able to do what they have done in this quarter.
The national president of Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents has commended the customs for a job well done in spite of the lockdown in most parts of the country. He pointed that since the lockdown, the customs still generate revenue and also fight against smugglers operating in the country.
Opener for federal government of Nigeria, they will now begin to think about diversifying their way of having revenue generated apart from oil. I'll tell you that maritime should be the next after oil that will generate that type of revenue if we're harnessed. We're harnessed in the sense that if they increase the capacities and the welfare of the customs, if they begin to do the good things even to the freight forwarders and custom brokers, and know that the qualities and the effectual relationship we're supposed to have with the government when it comes to revenue generation, then they have to take everything that concerns maritime serious. They have to know that maritime can even sustain the country by way of revenue generation. So they need to know that maritime has come to stay to cushion the effect of the problems of the petroleum downslope in the price. And again, I know that being given a very thorough backing back to customs and the custom brokers, we are going to generate that revenue. How do we do that? First of all, they know they have to do effective machineries of scanners in the port. They need to bring in scanners. They need to encourage the customs and the custom brokers. They need to give us all the incentives to work effectively and generate the money. The money is there to be generated, but they need to give a good incentive for those who are actually generating those revenue. Are the people who are generating the revenue. Customs are actually collecting and we're housing it for the government. And we actually taxing ourselves with the revenue generation through our power. What it means is that if, for example, my own company gets 1 or 2 billion naira revenue generation for 1 year, at least expectation is that they should give us that 1%. At least 1% of that total revenue generated. That will encourage us, one, to pay the actual duty, secondly, to generate more revenue through welfareism. Then again, we need to do a kind of scope analysis and know the strength and the weaknesses of all the government agencies at the port. Know exactly those who are actually there for revenue generation and those who are not there for that should be giving us a chance to do the job normally with the customs. Then again, we need a situation where total insurance cover should be given to us because we are doing a government job and we should be covered with insurance.
So,
if, just like I told you, if well organized and well harnessed, the custom is very capable of raising very good revenue generation for the government through us that pays the duty. What it takes for us is to have a little encouragement by us, either through CRFF and Council for Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria, which we actually been under, or taking a decision otherwise that whoever has generated this particular amount of money in his own private entrepreneurship must be given a percentage. But I think holistically, if they want to do it clearly, they should use the Council for Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria to do that. Encourage us, encourage the customs, encourage the government agencies in the ports. We get that done. I will tell you that oil should be, in the next very few years, in a very low level. So we need to begin to think about agriculture, we begin to think about maritime, we begin to think about self-independence and generation. Even when we have lights, even private industrialization will spring.
You are watching the program Customs Report. The Customs Area Controller in charge of Tinkan Customs Command has stated that the command has generated surplus revenue in the year 2020, first quarter of this year, than last year, 2019. The Customs Area Controller speaks more on happenings around his command.
To do with good planning. First quarter, during the last part of 2019, we had planned against our collection for 2020. So we had planned, and I think it's a result of that planning that you are seeing as part of our achievement in the first quarter. In the first quarter, that is January to March, we collected about 91.635 billion against a collection of about 78.34 billion last year. This is an improvement of about 12.7 billion, which is about 17.5% improvement in the collection. So it's not magic, it's just as a result of planning, and we are exploring the deployment of NISIS 2. That is what has been helping. And then we're looking at compliance with the import guidelines, trying to enforce it to the letter, enforcing the monetary policy, ensuring that importers pay appropriate duties, and where there are issues, we try to deploy the use of dispute resolutions so that things are treated fast, so that we achieve turnaround, quick turnaround. People can submit their declarations, do their examinations of cargo, get the cargo released and exited. So where there are issues, we ensure as a deliberate policy that those issues are resolved. So I think that has encouraged people to really work with us in trying to achieve this. So what compliance, you know, in operations like this, where you have to implement fiscal policy, monetary policies, you know, sometimes you have people who don't know of some of the technicalities in the policy, you know. Over time, we have realized some of them, you know, fall the other side because they are not aware of certain things. But what we have tried to do is to engage them. So through this engagement, you know, what is your problem? My problem is I don't know the duty rate for this. We, as a policy, try to guide them, guide their operation, and they have seen the advantage of compliance. You know, this advantage of compliance has encouraged other operators too to comply. So generally, what I will say is there's general improvement in compliance, particularly because people have seen the advantage of being compliant. You know, people are not aware of certain aspects of our policy, either the fiscal policy or monetary policy or the other regulatory requirements. So as much as possible, we have we have the help desks, you know, that people can walk there, make inquiry. People can come to the CAC's office and make inquiry of things they are not clear with. So some of them over time have explored this advantage, and now they are on top of the job. They are top of their job. They feel free. They are happy doing the work and this thing. So I think essentially is engagement, that you engage the regulator on what is not clear to you. And if you do that, is clear to you, and at least you are guided, and you have a dependable backing. Whatever happens, you say, he told me this is the way to go about doing this thing. And so essentially there's awareness, general awareness in the activities and the requirements, and then the operators try to fulfill these requirements. You see, when there are issues, first and foremost, the COVID-19 is a global thing. So it is something that we are in the supply sector, and definitely is something that affects the supply sector fundamentally. There's no aspect of human life that is not affected by the COVID-19. So first of all, there was the initial issue of what is even COVID-19. It created a lot of anxiety, fears. There was panic. People were looking at it as it's just everybody is going to die or something. But gradually, as instruction started rolling, coming up, rolling, it became clear that it's something that as human beings we have to live with it. But what do we do? So there was this creating of awareness, first and foremost, that there is this, and this is the way to go about this. So the headquarters directives kept coming in as expected. First of all, there was, yes, we have a pandemic that is named COVID-19. This is the way to go about the safety of our personnel, our officers, safety of workplace. This is the expectation. There's the issue of work schedule, that certain categories of officers should not come to work. Certain categories must be on their duty post, but they must observe these safety regulations. So these are some of the directives we have received from the headquarters that essentially has helped us. Initially people were vulnerable, people were afraid and what have you. But with these instructions, we took it and we tried to sensitize officers, operators on how to conduct themselves. Like, if you observe the environment now, you discover everyone you see has a face mask. And then we have put literatures all over so that people can stand and read conveniently. We have placed water with soap, people can wash their hands, and then we have placed sanitizers everywhere. People can use this sanitizer so that you, the regulator, and they, the operators, stakeholders, are all safe at the end of the day. And then we also deal with them with a lot of empathy, emotions, and then you reassure them, both the officers, that, look, this is the way. If you go this way, you go according to the protocol, nothing will happen. But if you go against the protocol, that is where you will have issues. So that is what we have tried to do. So what we do is we meet regularly with head of terminals, that, okay, we have this issue, but this is the way to go about. We have this is the way to go about. Then they also, in turn, will go to the terminals and meet their officers. At the point, I had to invite all the regulatory agencies, and we have to meet on the path to go with the pandemic. And so far, alhamdulillah, I think we are good.
The coordinator of the Controller General of Nigerian Customs Striking Force in the Western Zone of the country has seized goods worth millions of naira in the last 3 months in 2020. The task force has seized items which include tomato paste, rice, tires, and cars from smugglers. The coordinator says that in spite of the lockdown of the border, smugglers are still finding time to bring in consignment into the country. He warned them that they desist from the act of smuggling, and anyone caught will be made to face the law.
Brought by strike force. As you know, this is government warehouse. We are just custodians of this paste to Nigeria Customs Service. All we have here temporarily is just tomato paste. And we have just about 32,400 cartons of them. 32,400 cartons of tomato paste to representative of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in Lagos, in the person of Mrs. Oluwakemi Adediji. Their representatives are here to collect the tomato paste. And you can see these are part of the paste here, which are being uploaded to traders. They are broken down to about 11 states, 12 states. I think this man is from Plateau and Benue are around, right? They give them their consignment, which is 2,500 cartons each. While other subsequent ones come, we equally handle.
Containing tomato paste and prune tomato. For the two states present here, we have Plateau and Benue, and each of them is getting 2,500 cartons each. So, which is the one we are distributing now.
The government for this kind gesture, and will go a long way to alleviate the challenges my people are facing out there. Because it's actually good to send palliatives. You can see it's expiring October 2021. So we now have a grace of over a year, 1 year 5 months, 1 year 5 months now.
I'm here to collect tomato paste from Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. I've done 500 cartons on behalf of Benue State. Look of things, the expiring date is August 2021. This one is August 21. That means it is good for consumption.
Still about 1 year.
And it has about 1 year, some months guarantee. The Nigerian Customs, kudos to them. They have been doing a lot of good job, and my prayer for them is God should keep them strong and healthy so that they will continue the good and wonderful job they are doing, which has also gone a far away to enhance our revenue collection.
Just before we round up this week edition of the program, Customs Report, we brought you a report where the controller in charge of Tinkan Customs Command has continued to preach to stakeholders to continue to follow the rules as laid down by Nigerian Customs Service. For me, Egeseme Edinye, thanks for watching.